And our word for today on this Friday of the 22nd week in Ordinary Time, this Friday, September the 6th, our word for today is judgment. Judgment, our word for today, taken from our reading from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4. Brothers and sisters, thus should one regard us as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Now it is, of course, required of stewards that they be found trustworthy. It does not concern me in the least that I be judged by you or any human tribunal. I want to stop right there. This is St. Paul writing, it does not concern me at all that I be judged by you or by any human tribunal. Wow, this is Saul who became Paul. We've got to take a trip back in time, right? Because Saul was the persecutor of the church of God. He literally sent people to their deaths. He was in charge of rounding them up and sending them to their deaths. This is the role that he played. Now, we know what happened as he had his conversion, but I've often thought, what if I had a family member who was a Christian and was rounded up by then Saul, who became Paul? How quick would I be to forgive Paul for what he did to my family member, what he did to my brother, what he did to my sister, what he did to my mother, my father, my child? How quick would I be to go and forgive this man? And now look at him as the leader of the Christian faith. He and Peter and Paul together out proclaiming the gospel, and the other apostles, of course. But Saul, now become Paul, is now looked on as a leader in the church, and he had many of the Christians killed, at least had many of them imprisoned. And here he is, knowing this. How many times has he come across a fellow believer who had to come to him and say, I forgive you for what you did to my family member. I forgive you for what you did to my friend. I've had to reconcile this myself. I've had to come to this point where I can forgive you. And Paul had to have had that conversation over and over and over again. And here we see him say again, now it is of course required stewards that they be found trustworthy. It does not concern me in the least that I be judged by you or any tribunal. I do not even pass judgment on myself. Brothers and sisters, that is the key. He says, I do not even pronounce a judgment upon myself. No one is more familiar with what I've done than me. I know what I've done. I know what I am responsible for. But I don't even pronounce judgment on myself. Therefore, since I am not willing to pronounce a judgment on myself, I can allow you to come to me and say that you forgive me for what I did. And I just say, okay, thank you. And I let that forgiveness flow, not only from you, but also, and more importantly, from the Lord God Himself, so that I don't even pronounce a judgment upon myself. But I do not thereby stand acquitted. St. Paul says, even though I pronounce no judgment against myself, that even though I know I've offended you, and even though I now say I myself am not going to pronounce myself guilty, I don't stand thereby and say I'm acquitted of it all. I allow the Lord to be the judge of that thing, not only of me, but of everyone else. If I allow His judgment to be the sole judgment that I concern myself with, then it's easier for me to forgive and to accept forgiveness from others because I know the one who will hold me accountable. And thanks be to God, as St. Paul goes on to say, therefore, do not make any judgment before the appointed time until the Lord comes, for he will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will make manifest the motives of our hearts, and then everyone will receive praise from God. The Lord knows the thing that is hidden, brothers and sisters. He knows us better than we know ourselves. He is the one who holds judgment upon us, and none other, not even ourselves. We entrust ourselves to the mercy of our God. Judgment, our word for today.